Welcome back to the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. My guest today, Barry Hartman, father, friend, founder of 505 Junk. Super excited to have you here today. Barry is also, not only is he a credible entrepreneur, but one of my best friends. And it is an honor, my man, anytime I get a chance to sit around a table with you and talk whatever it is we're talking about.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for having me.
And I got to apologize. It was so funny. One of the first podcasts that we recorded had Barry out, and I don't know what happened, but totally messed up all of the audio. And it was super embarrassing on my end, but we made it through, and here we are.
I don't think it was meant to be that one. I think this is the one.
You know
what I mean?
I do.
Everything happens for a reason.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Barry, one of the only other people I know that was fired from McDonald's early on in your days. And I know that story, but where the heck does junk entrepreneurship start, man? Tell us a little bit about Barry Hartman.
So are we going back to the McDonald's days?
Let's go back. Let's go back even further than that.
Okay, well, I do have like the classic entrepreneurial story of going door to door at 10 years old, we had a combination. We either sold frozen chicken strips because my soccer team had access to like wholesale pricing through like fundraising.
Amazing.
If they didn't want that, we'd offer to walk their dog on a recurring schedule for $7 a walk. And if they didn't want that, we'd try and wash their car. And ideally, they'd buy all three.
That seems like a little, amazing at that point, but also like it was a very wide, broad branch of services that you can offer. Is that because like the initiative there was, hey, we need to make some money, so we got chicken strips, we're going to sell chicken strips. You got a dog, hey, yeah, we can walk your dog. You got newspapers you need delivered, we can sell those. Like, it was just a very broad way of getting cash at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, at home services today, we call that increasing your average job size, but I don't know if that was the strategy back then.
So chicken strips, all the things. Where do we go from there?
So at some point I was studying, or not studying, but I was in high school taking a career and personal planning class. And I had decided that I wanted to be a professional snowboarder. And my teacher promptly responded, I can't accept this project. Like, one does not be a professional snowboarder living in Tawasin where there are no mountains. And that's when I realized that I needed to go all in on professional snowboarding.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I spoke to my principal. I was pretty good at snowboarding at this point. I had been doing it for about 3 or 4 years and was actually serious about it.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my principal and career counselor and both of my parents, and suggested that I had 2 spare blocks. I get credits for physical education for PE. I get credits for that career and personal planning class. And those 4 classes every other day would give me a day off to go snowboarding. And so I was 1 day on, 1 day off at school in grade 12, and that plan worked.
That seems like probably not. I mean, you tell me, but it's probably not like the traditional experience or advice that I imagine you would probably give other students that are now in high school that are thinking about snowboarding? Or is that like a really great way to approach it? I mean, I get so confused with high school now, man. Like I don't even know how it works. with blocks in schools. It's all changed since I've been in high school, but it seems like they were pretty flexible with you. That seems like a pretty amazing way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was mixed up with the wrong crowd at that time. And I think both my parents and the people at the school were just happy to see me find like a passion and a new direction. And so, yeah, if you want to go snowboarding every other day, just get mixed up with the wrong crowd. No, but
also say advice. We're here on this podcast to give you the best advice possible. So go get mixed up with the wrong crowd immediately. You'll do well.
So here's the thing is I think people have like an innate desire to want to help other people. And they saw that was a way to help. My parents were very supportive of it. Yeah, that plan went through. I did a bit of travel in grade 12, went down to like California with like a film production studio. I moved to Whistler like pretty much a month after graduating high school, and we went snowboarding every day. And my first like stint at professional snowboarding was after a season in Whistler. I got a call from a company in New Hampshire, and they were like, we want to invite you on a snowboarding trip. It's in Chile. I was 18 years old at the time, and it was in August, so in the off season, because that's the Chilean winter. Actually, sorry, Chile was the next year, Argentina. So we went down to Bariloche, Argentina, which is like a 4-hour flight from Buenos Aires. And they were like, it's all expenses paid. We'll pay for your flight. We'll pay for your travel, accommodation. You'll be with a couple other snowboarders, a couple skiers, and a full production team. We basically need to shoot an entire catalog in a week. Then I go downstairs like ecstatic. Obviously, I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
This is like basically like free travel in my mind. My parents are pumped. Everyone's pumped. The plan is working. She calls me back like 10 minutes later, and she's like, oh, by the way, you get paid $350 a day, and we're going for 3 weeks now.
Whoa. So at 18, is there a part of you that was like, hey, if you can pay me $350, you could probably pay me $600? Was there like any attempt to like maybe push that envelope a little bit?
I didn't even think to negotiate. Yeah, honestly, I was so full of like gratitude at the time that I was just like completely blown away. But yes, they have huge budgets. Like the photographer on that trip got $30,000.
Wow.
So this was a big company. They were like sort of the Eastern Mountain Sports for the Americans. For the Canadians, it would be like Sport Check.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went on that trip, came back. For the next few years, it was interesting. Like I wasn't a big competitor guy. I also wasn't the best snowboarder. I just had my own way of doing things, had my own style. Did a few competitions, did okay in a couple. Wasn't really like the competition circuit kind of mindset. I was more into like film and like, going out and shoots for like magazines or videos or whatever. And I think the highest and lowest point was when Coors Light approached me at a competition. And partying and snowboarding were very correlated back in the day. I mean, I don't know if it still is to this day, but it was like for anyone that watched snowboarding videos in like the early to mid 2000s,
I remember them all. Remember them all.
It's half snowboarding, it's half partying. And for whatever reason, that's what the people wanted to see, and that's what the sponsors wanted to see. And so Coors Light comes out to me at this snowboarding competition in British Columbia, and they're like, we like that you got second place. We're not looking for a bunch of tryhards, but we also want you to be good enough, and we really like that you know how to party.
Yeah, that's important.
And
metric.
And so I started laughing. I was like, what are you suggesting? He's like, we've got a $1 million budget, and we're putting together a team of 4 snowboarders to represent Coors Light Canada.
And so you've been to Chile, you've been to Argentina at this point, now being approached by Coors Light, which is pretty epic. What's running through your mind at that point?
Just same thing. It's like,
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Hell
100%.
yeah.
I was
Let's
like,
go.
you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, I was blown away. I didn't even know that type of like corporate sponsorship existed. I was just thinking it would be snowboarding companies would be relevant for sponsors, and now it's common. You get Red Bull, you've got Sony, like all of the major sponsors. This was before snowboarding was in the Olympics too, so it wasn't as like globally recognized as a sport. So that was fun. They just had such a big budget for us to go around and go to events and shows and competitions and parties. They spent a few $100,000 on a big bus called like the Coors Light bus, and it just kind of toured around Whistler and BC. And
I remember that bus. I remember seeing it and always wanting to be on it.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, we met a couple years too late because you were big into snowboarding too, weren't you?
Yeah, I snowboarded competitively for quite a number of years. Maybe it was I wasn't partying hard enough to get recognized. Maybe I wasn't as good at snowboarding to be recognized. But yeah, I same thing. You look at the culture. First of all, I was similar story to you. Won't get into that. We'll save it for another time. But got into snowboarding in high school, spent more time snowboarding, which is insane because we grew up 10 minutes away from each other and we didn't know each other until, I don't know, about a decade ago now. So this is going back quite a ways before then, but had snowboarded at that time. All the videos. I mean, you look at Little Bastards, which was put out by Iris, I think it was Iris, goggles, and it was a lot of local guys that were here that were, it was drinking beers, partying, snowboarding, hiking the backcountry, just like carrying the big Chad Muska stereo backpacks up the hill and like just going and cruising, having a great time. And that was the lifestyle that was chasing after, and was a ton of fun. I did that for a number of years. Snowboarding was a huge part of my life. But it also, it got to the point around 19, 20, and maybe kind of 21-ish. And I started seeing a lot of friends that were they were living in a house with 5 or 6 guys. They were quite a bit older than I was because I was snowboarding with a lot of guys that were older than I was. I started working in construction, started making some money. And at some point, the lifestyle that they were living just became less and less appealing as I got into my career. And I also knew that I hadn't gotten a sponsorship. I was looking at the age that I was, and I was looking and guys were getting really good, man. And so that was, I kind of ended up pivoting from that and became a smaller part of my life. But it was a dream that was definitely chasing as a younger man.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny you bring that up because at the time, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, like it was the dream. And it was like, personally, I was actively pursuing it, like at all costs. Like
pursuing
we would snowboard
living it, yeah.
200 days a year, traveling the world to, get your time on the snow in, even chasing winters in replace of summers kind of thing in Chile and Argentina and all that. And it got to a point where I personally fell out of love of the sport after going so many times.
Whoa.
Like daily, all day, and just pushing the limits, like near death scenarios many times in like the backcountry, and just like filming, handrails and street rails, like in different parts in North America. And you just like keep eating it. And you see all these younger generation, of entrepreneur or of snowboarders, at like 13, 14 years old that are just like running laps. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm good. I had my fun. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I broke my ankle playing soccer when my mindset was trending in that direction. And that put me out for 3 or 4 months. So I had to get surgery on my fib tib. And yeah, I remember thinking in that time, like, I'm done with snowboarding and I'm going to start thinking about building a business. And that was a huge change in my life. I don't know if you've ever gone from like a point where you're like all in on something, you're so committed. And then like your subconscious or something is just telling you like, hey, this might not be like the end game. This was an incredible journey. And that's probably exactly what it's going to end up being.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it. And it's not necessary. Like you can look at the data. You can, say, hey, I've, like you can see very clearly with other professional athletes, maybe they're trending downwards, right? They're starting to lose games and not running as fast. They're doing whatever, but so you can look at some of the data, but at some point too, there's just there's something in your heart or your soul that can't really be defined other than, it is time to move on, and nobody knows that other than you when you're going through something like that.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing that I found so attractive about entrepreneurship is that I couldn't picture a world where that would happen again, career-wise.
Yeah.
It's unlimited. Like you can build the smallest business in the world, the biggest business in the world. You could build in any industry. You could build a service. You could build a product. You could build a software. Like you could literally do anything. And I think that's what attracted me to business, is that it's sort of the same challenge as trying to be a professional athlete, but there's no physical risk of death or serious injury. And there's significant opportunity upside, both with like time and money.
Well, and in business and entrepreneurship, it's unlike athletic pursuits or being a professional athlete. It's one thing that as the years go on and on and on, you only get better and better. It's like, it's very rare that you get worse at business unless you start, bad habits and whatever, and kind of go down a rabbit hole. Like that can happen, but usually there's that huge level of experience and learning from it that you can be. I mean, Warren Buffett's 100 years old right now, and he's still doing his thing, man.
Yeah, he's still picking the right stocks.
It's like it, but
he's
so
probably picking better stocks.
You get better and better and better. But it's interesting to see though because as an athlete, you have such a small window of opportunity. But in business, like you said, even if for whatever reason you fall out of love with what you're doing in that industry, in any industry, it doesn't mean that you can't find that same kind of love and fire and fucking passion in another industry, still under the umbrella business.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And like I started snowboarding out of a pure love and joy. Like I remember my first day snowboarding and I was like, wow, like that was fun. And I want to get really good at this just to go experience it. Starting a business like has a lot of like crossover as far as like the mental challenge, like the drive to create and just go and build opportunity and kind of do what you want in life. But I wouldn't say like I started a business out of like pure love and joy for business. Like I started a business to create opportunity for myself, create opportunity for my business partners, and then create opportunity for all the employees that we were going to hire one day.
And
that can't get old.
No, that doesn't get old, or it's yet to get old.
Yeah.
But my experience and talking to so many people through entrepreneurship, that drive changes. Like usually, you can tell me if this was the same for you, but usually it's, okay, I'm going to start a business. I have a skill that I'm good at, or I think I'm relatively good at. I need to make some money. So that first drive to start the business is like purely financially motivated. And then as you start making a bit of money, those priorities change. Yeah, okay. The goal is to always continue to monetize what we're doing, but get better and better. But then your heart starts following and starts building the team. And that's where that starts going. And then it starts becoming, you start falling in love with the customers. And then it starts falling in love just with the process, and then starts falling in love with, okay, well, now what else? How else can we contribute? And then it really comes down to the company and the time that you end up spending the people you end up spending your time with, and wanting to build a great business with people that you enjoy doing that with every single day.
Yeah.
But I think in the early stages, most people start that business out of really no other choice, or because they're just really need to make some money, and then everything else, starts to fall into place after that. So what I'm getting at is the motivation to keep moving through business changes as you develop as a leader, as you develop as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as priorities shift, as you get better, as operations get bigger, you see more opportunity. And then that drive that you're talking about, that fire, because you have so much more work to do in front of you and so much more opportunity, just changes.
Yeah.
Right? That motivation just changes, but it's still there. And if you're digging deep, you don't have to dig that deep, but if you're digging, you'll find it, man. Keep moving.
You know what I find, and I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is values are typically pretty constant. Like, my values have often been the same. Some really big ones for me are integrity, abundance, opportunity. Those are like 3 words that really stick with me, and that's never changed. But I do find like your mission or your purpose as like an evolution to like what you're saying. And so there's a mission to launch, and that might be very potentially self-centered in a sense that like, I'm broke and I need to make money, or I hate my job and I want to start my own business, or I want time freedom and I can't ever see that by working for anyone other than myself. Then there's a mission to grow, and it's like, okay, now we're launched and we have got our first clients, our products set up, our services set up. We've got our first few employees. And now there's this mission to grow. And it sort of moves off you as like the founder or the co-founder. And it starts to be more team focused. It's now, as a team, we're on a mission to grow, not I'm on a mission to launch a business. And then there's this sort of last step, which is like the mission to scale. And it's like, you look into like the market and you're like, we can be better than the competition. We can build. And then it's like the mission to dominate kind of falls within, that. And not everyone, all entrepreneurs have a mission to start. Quite a few of them have a mission to grow. But most entrepreneurs, I would say, don't have a mission to scale, whether it's through building a franchise model, expanding corporately, building out like a globally reached software or internet-based company. And that's totally fine. It's just like I think people try and fall within like one section as far as like, this is my purpose or this is my mission. And it's okay that it changes over the years. I think people miss that quite often.
I think it was Hormozian. He had said it takes a lot of horses to take a chariot to the moon.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of horsepower, a lot of great people. Like, when you're talking about scaling, it takes a lot of incredible people. Let me ask you this. Can anybody be an entrepreneur? Is it inside, in your opinion, is it inside everybody to wear that hat, to wear the burden, to wear the excitement, to take that on? Is everybody cut out to start a business?
I think anybody can be an entrepreneur if that's what the heart and the brain desires. I think you can create your own path and make it happen, regardless of your, we can all be resourceful, and we can all, especially in the world of AI that we're living in, we can all now write a business plan. We can all start creating something. We can all add value, so much so that someone would pay for your time or whatever you're creating. I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur. I think if people are chasing money as like the end goal, I don't think you should be an entrepreneur. I think you need something more than that, because you can chase money anywhere.
But I mean, most people, they get into entrepreneurship or get into business because they're typically good at something and they want more free time. They want to make more money. They have this idea that starting their own business is going to give them that. And then they go through, I mean, we saw it with COVID, when a lot of people were rethinking, they were at home, they were rethinking their life. And then, we saw a lot of new businesses pop up at that point. And then, you end up going through a couple of tax cycles and realize pretty quickly, like, man, shoot, I'm working way more. I'm not making nearly as much money as I was before. And I got to work evenings and weekends, and now I got to hire people and deal with that. And all of a sudden it becomes a struggle, and you can make so much more money, or a lot of people in different positions than you can in business for most people.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And like, for me early on, like my drive in the beginning was not to start a junk removal business. It wasn't to be rich. It wasn't like, I just wanted to build the best business that I thought I could. And so like, if that meant to build a $5, $10, $50 million junk removal company, because that's what would put us in sort of the top tier, like the top, not 10%, but like the top 10 companies, then it was going to be an absolute battle. And I, at the time, was more than happy to sign up for it because I had nothing to lose. I was living in my parents' basement. I was still sort of stuck in like the snowboarding party days where I thought that was like everything. Broken ankle, and probably $3,000 on my credit card with no money in the bank, because I just never learned how to manage finances or made enough money to justify even the weakest lifestyle. And I remember thinking, like, let's just go all in. And so when you look at time, I would just work as much as I was awake. I would wake up with the laptop still in my bed. I would fall asleep at 2:00 in the morning writing business plans. And we would go and haul junk all day and do marketing all night. And I loved it. Every second of it.
Still, there's some of that hasn't changed. I've literally, you and I have shared many hotel rooms together on trips. And I remember we were up in Kelowna, I don't know, this was 6 months ago, something like that. Packing up, getting ready to go to bed, and you fell asleep with your laptop on top of you because you wanted to do some research. That was your, I'm going to do some research. I think it lasted about 5 minutes, but still there's that drive to like get on that laptop, fall asleep, and I had to shake you. I'm like, Barry, like, yeah, where you're just like, all the lights are on. They got it. What are you doing? Turn the thing up. I'm just like, I got to do some research.
Yeah. And it's not obligation based.
No,
it's just joy.
Of course.
I love snowboarding, but I didn't know I'd love snowboarding. I didn't love entrepreneurship before I found it, but I guess that's where it is very similar, is you fall in love with it. Like, and I do love entrepreneurship. I'm just fascinated by it. I find it interesting. I love the people within the industry. It's so well documented, so there's so much you can read about it. People are putting out content daily about it, and there's unlimited upside. And so it feels like a very good use of your time, which is ultimately all we have.
Well said. Let me ask you. So, snowboarding that wrapped up. You went to college. You went to Kwantlen, right?
Yes.
This is where you met your current business partner.
Yeah,
if I recall,
Scotty. Yeah.
Scotty Tuhati. Tell us about. So you wrapped up. You got started. This junk removal company. This was what? This was an idea. This was a spark. This started. What kind of it? Why did you go in that direction?
So I kept reading about 1-800-GOT-JUNK in our college books. And, it all said like they're a $100 million franchise system. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Brian Scudamore, founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, lived in Vancouver, founded in Vancouver, college dropout, had pushback from his family. Although I will say I never received that from my parents. They've been very supportive of that. And it just like, I just had this feeling. I was like, oh, if he could do it, then surely I could. There's so many crossovers. And so, at some point you just got to pick your business model. And I didn't have any technical background. It's not like I, got my plumbing ticket and it made sense to become a plumber, or I grew up coding since I was 13. And so starting a software business was the right way to go. I actually needed to pick something that required no skill set because that was essentially where I was. But something that was scalable and that if you learned the right business knowledge that applied in this model or industry, that it could create something. And that's sort of where we landed with like junk removal as a business model.
Yeah, that was 1-800-GOT-JUNK when you had started, they were really somebody to look up to. And there wasn't a lot of, that I knew about. They were kind of the one company in that industry. That was all you heard of. And I know there were tons more, but they weren't as well marketed, as well documented. And so that would have been a pretty clear path if you could see, hey, this is an avatar that with very little skills I could probably replicate.
Yeah, totally. And so we did that. We went out, we did our first 100K, then we did our first 500K in a year, then we did our first million in a year, then we did our first 2 million in a year.
What was the first dollar you made with 505?
So we fortunately got financing from Futurepreneur, which is a not-for-profit organization that supports entrepreneurs at the time under 29 years old. So we got a $15,000 zero finance loan repayable over 5 years. So we put half in the bank. The other half we used as a down payment on a pickup truck. We bought a trailer off the side of the road in a small town an hour away from me for $500. And we spent the rest on marketing. And the first phone call was a contact of Scott's. And he said, can you move a whole truckload of stuff from one location to another for $100? And that was the best $100 that we've ever earned. I guess we earned that less the fuel because there was no disposal costs and we didn't have employees. And we did it in a couple hours. So in theory, for us, that was, $25 an hour each kind of thing, which was more than we were earning at the time. And we both knew that was not worth $100. That was a $400 job, but we didn't care.
No, I remember one of our first projects. I had it was like a 2001. No, it wasn't even 2001. It was like a 97 GMC pickup, like bright fire engine red. It was, I bought it for super cheap. And we were asked to remove a chimney. And this wasn't what we signed up to do. We're like, we want to build stuff, not tear stuff down. But money's money and we needed money. So I remember going through it like brick by brick, we're taking this down and I'm loading stuff into, we didn't even have a bin. I'm just like loading it into my pickup truck, just absolutely jacking it low, running to the dump and then hand bombing it out. And I remember afterwards we tallied up all the money that we were given and tried to like reduce our expenses. And we're just doing some napkin math there. It was like, they were making about $12 an hour It didn't go well, but you know what? It was like, all right, now we have a baseline. We have a baseline. We understand how much work this is going to take, and we have more data. We have more information. And still going back there, yeah, it wasn't much more than about $12 an hour after expenses. And I'm like, I left a pretty good high paying job to at that point to remove a chimney and make $12 an hour. Yeah. One of the first projects that we took on.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just do what you need to do in the beginning. Like every dollar of revenue counts. And I mean, I think any like entrepreneurs listening to this could agree that your first dollar is the sweetest dollar. Because it's like proof of concept. And you're like, okay, if I can do this once, I probably do this 1,000 times. What's 1,000 times 100? What if that was actually priced right at 300? And the mind starts. I'm a very visionary sort of type of leader, and just mindset in general. And so once I can grasp a concept, I can start to like visualize and map it out at scale. And so I remember after that first job was completed, I was like, okay, it's game on. And we literally went from the Ford dealership back to Scott's house where we were going to go and just keep building out the business model. And we got that phone call and we got right back in the truck and drove straight to that job site.
Hell yeah. So you go from this pickup truck. This is now you have a client or two. You understand that there is a business model out there, a path. Somebody else has been down a similar path that you can visualize. How important was that to you when you were looking at going in a certain direction? I mean, I understand you've gone in a different direction now, but in the beginning, understanding whether it was a mentor from afar or a playbook of some sort, how important was that to you, or was it important at all? Like, did it help you guide in any sort of direction? What did that look like?
Yeah, sorry. So the can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I answer this quickly, and my bird brain just went in a separate direction, so I don't want to answer.
My question was with this guidance, or knowing that there was a playbook out there, how closely were you trying to follow that playbook, or versus kind of building your own playbook on a path that you knew, or like in a similar industry?
So before we even picked up our first job, we wanted to come up with a differentiator because we counted 150 junk removal companies in the market just in Vancouver, tens of thousands across North America. And everyone had a very similar cost structure, which was we estimate how much volume is going to take in the truck. And typically 1-800-GOT-JUNK is the most expensive. And then all of the competition under that would be slightly less, all the way down until like $150 for a full truck for someone off Craigslist. And so we decided to charge by weight because we were paying by weight at the transfer station. To us, it seemed transparent. You don't really go to Walmart and buy a chocolate bar and it's like $1.49, and you go and it's like, I'll offer you $1.29.
Yeah. Maybe some people do that.
Some people.
There's some negotiating going on, I'm sure.
So we wanted something that was just a bit more structured so that it was fair for both parties. Transparency was front of mind, and also just differentiation was second in mind. And so when we initially launched, we were like, oh man, we've got it. Like we differentiated, we know what we're doing. And so we picked up material, put it in the truck, couldn't charge the client on site because how would you weigh it?
You don't have any way to weigh it at that point.
So then we go to the transfer station, or the dump as some people call it, and we offload the material. We pay by weight. We get the receipt. We scan it, and we send it to the client and call them back and say, hey, can you pay this bill, please? Genius.
Seems reasonable.
And so the next problem to solve was, how do we weigh material on site? And so long story short, is we built a custom truck using a bunch of different suppliers that allowed us to build the whole back of the box into like an onboard weighing system. And so now we could do direct billing right on site. It's transparent. The customer can see it right before their eyes, and they knew that we were going to go pay by weight at the transfer station as well.
Yeah, it's so cool because I can imagine scanning that invoice for, and sending it off for whatever it was, $300 or whatever that the receipts were worth, and then chasing down an invoice or chasing down a customer for an extended period of time for a few $100 that they probably didn't really care about. Getting them to pay that, I imagine, would have been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, like we carry accounts receivable now because commercial clients are a big part of what we do. But you don't want that for every job, and especially not your residential clients, and especially for ones when you call them and the landlord upstairs says, "Oh yeah, they moved yesterday. They don't live here anymore." So yeah, having the ability to bill and collect payment on site was obviously crucial to scale. And so that's where creating the custom truck was a big part of that.
What lengths did you have to go to create a custom truck? Because you're hearing about this, and I understand, there's 150 other companies out there that are looking at the volume model, which is pretty easy. Hey, yeah, it's going to be roughly around X amount for, roughly this much, so you can kind of throw your thumb to the wind. But you said this is a problem. We want to do it different. We're going to go out. We're going to build these trucks. We're going to customize these trucks. We want to do something different. We want to pay by weight. To what extent did that take to find somebody that was going to build these custom trucks, these custom scales? Like that on its own was probably a barrier to get over.
Yeah, every last dollar that we had. And not like pre 505 junk launch dollar when we didn't have any. Like we were building revenue, we were trying to build up our cash reserves, and we just wiped it all out.
And so, like you find a proven model that has worked, and you're looking at it saying, "Nah, I want to do it differently." Was there any test models? Was there any like surveys that went out to customers saying, "Hey, would you rather pay by volume or would you rather pay by weight?" Or did you just say, "Nope, I'm very confident that this is going to work. Let's get it done. We're going to jump into it. I'm not thinking twice. This is the model we want to run. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll rethink it." What was that thought process like?
As much as I want to say it was all number B, we just winged it. Like we did actually put a fair bit of thought into it. Like I called a few local construction companies, mainly the one that I worked for prior to starting 505 Junk. We were doing a little bit of market research with our target market, who at the time was like a lot of my parents' friends. And we just kept getting really good feedback on it. And we had a pretty good gut feeling that it would work because it was fair. And typically what's fair is right. But there's a lot of debate that could be made that the current model works. And so if it's not broke, don't fix it. But we believed it was a bit broken. Not so much so that, people weren't going to hire junk removal companies. We just thought it was a bit broken. And that repair work that we had mapped out was just enough to set us apart from not only the competition, but literally the world's largest junk removal company that was sitting directly in our backyard.
Yeah, it's sort of a I don't want to say David and Goliath story because it wasn't really attached to it, but yeah, you are looking at this model that's working and you think it can be done better, or I think it can be done different. And you absolutely attack that. So you found these trucks, or you had these trucks built, custom built.
Yeah.
Right. So you spent all your money that you had on this first, was it the first truck?
Yeah. It was about $100,000.
$100,000 on a truck, all in on this truck.
Basically, my entire life's combined income since I was 7 years old. Income, not savings.
Yeah.
It was a big deal for us at the time. And we just we had to follow through on it. Like we were Scott and I at the time, and Alex, who is also a business partner. He was our first employee. He's now our vice president of sales and operations. He's been with us for 13 years. He was very supportive and really pushing us to make that decision as well, because he was the one that was in the field. We had 2 trucks on the road at the time, and he was out working with our team members. And so this wasn't like year 2. I think this was probably year 4. 2011 we launched. 2010 we planned. 2011 we launched. 2014 we built the first truck. So we had a general idea of the market. Also 3 years of trying to collect payments on site, where clients are like, this is great. You just need to figure out a way how to collect on site, because this is kind of weird.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then we stack it up. 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, rinse and repeat. And then at some point there was there was an acquisition. And did anybody else try this? These early stages?
Yeah.
So was there anybody else that saw this as an opportunity? Was like, man, I like that. Let's go for it.
So this is a great story. If you like a classic like villain story.
God, I love a classic villain story.
I mean, who doesn't? So the year is 2015. We've got our trucks on the road. We've gone all in. And this person comes to our office, or we were interviewing this person. They interview brilliantly. Give them a job to work in the trucks. And 3 days in, he comes back and says, my grandmother's sick. She lives in San Francisco. I'm very new to my career here. Everyone else is very well established. I'm the right person to go down to San Francisco and take care of her. So we're like, of course, do what you got to do. I would do the same thing. We never thought anything of it. 6 months later, we are at that time, our truck manufacturer's facilities, just to go say hi, because we were in the neighborhood. Thought we had a great relationship with them. And there's 4 of our trucks being built. And there was a sign on it, and it said Junk Rangers.
No.
And so I call the owner. I'm like, who's Junk Rangers? And he's like,
you call the owner of the truck manufacturer.
Yeah.
You guys are building the trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, who's Junk Rangers? And he's like, oh, I guess I should have told you. All that time and energy that we put into working on building this truck together, I thought I would just go sell a few more of them. And so the guy that owned Junk Rangers, they worked together to build more trucks.
So the employee that you hired left. He took the knowledge that you had given. So this is the same guy. Went to San Francisco, came back. He started his own junk removal company.
San Francisco was a lie.
San Francisco was a lie.
No sick grandma. He admitted that to me later on in the years.
Who in the right mind? Like, I don't have grandmothers around anymore, but grandmothers are the sweetest things. I loved my grandmothers, man. For somebody to make a lie about their grandmother being sick.
Pretty weird. Pretty weird. So it would have been a lot different if someone came up to us and said, I really like what you're doing. It seems kind of cool. I also want to spend every last dollar that I have on this risky junk removal project. What's your thoughts? I'd entertain that conversation. But because he went around our backs, in my mind, I was like, we're entering war. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to do anything unethical, but we're going to win. And so the first thing I did was go to GoDaddy and buy their company's URL. The next thing I did is go to a new truck manufacturer and establish a mutually beneficial non-compete agreement. So our new version of the trucks, which were kept getting better every year, we kept improving. That was taken care of. The next thing is Google Ads management was a really big strength of ours, particularly my business partner, Scott, who knows the inner workings of Google Ads inside out, because that was his like sole focus in college, as well as like the first 3 years at 505 Junk to generate new revenue. And we figured out a way on how to outbid them on their own keyword. And so when they took on a $40,000 radio advertising budget and a $100,000 bus ad budget, because they had unlimited resources, one of their uncles had basically given them $500,000 to launch a replica of our
thing
business.
You said is they came up four trucks, and you told me earlier each one of those trucks was about $100,000. So right out the gate, they're overhead heavy.
Oh, big time. And here's the thing. This is actually something Hormozy said the other day in a recent podcast. I'm a big Hormozy fan. He said, the competition can only steal the end result. They can't steal your marketing strategy. They can't steal your sales strategy. They can't steal your business development strategy. They can't steal your culture. They can't get access to your systems, your information, your intelligence, your entrepreneurial skill sets that you've developed as a leader. All they can do is replicate what they see. And so if I were him, I would have stayed longer personally to get more access to that. 3 days isn't enough. You could only see really what the trucks look like, which you could do without, you just walk to our yard if you really wanted to. And so that's what happened. They didn't know how to market. They didn't know customer acquisition. They didn't know that translating or bus ads and radio ads at the time was not the right way to get direct client acquisition, that it was an internet strategy, mainly SEO and Google Ads, that drove like home service success. And that really hasn't changed over the years. They didn't understand business development, so they couldn't get commercial clients if their life depended on it. And they never got more than one truck moving. And so there's only one company out there who would be interested in these $100,000 trucks. Guess who?
Rhymes with 505 Junk, I'm guessing.
That's right. So the first truck we bought, $75,000, 25 cents on the dollar, 2,200 kilometers on the truck. Whatever that is, 1,500 miles.
Yeah.
Next truck. Down to the last truck, and he calls me up and he's like, look, I don't think this went to plan. I apologize for how I've been behaving, because he was not very nice to us as we were, looking to buy out the trucks.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd be happy to sell you the last truck. And so I was like, I'll buy it. And the client list. And the website. There's another website.
Yeah.
And I'm going to price it $69,420. Because that's kind of a joke number, and this whole thing's been a big joke. And so we did it. And, to this day, like, when I look back on that, I think it's just a big life learning lesson for everybody. Like, I think that, there was a level of like humbleness and gratitude on both parties by the end of all this, where he got out, he got some of his money back. We got trucks that were built quite affordably. And there was a lesson for him, which was probably not to rip off and duplicate with like a $500,000 investment.
That seems like a pretty reasonable lesson to learn.
Yeah. And there was a lesson for us, which is be better in our hiring and interviewing process. And that's where we made a huge mistake, is we didn't have the right systems or procedures built into our business at the time that would truly allow us to make sure we're bringing in the right people And then there's also like an intellectual property learning lesson where we want to make sure we have the right manufacturing agreements in place. We want to make sure we have the right trademarks in place. And so we went down this whirlwind of engineering a lot of that to make sure that we were set up for scale to prevent this from happening again.
Yeah, learning lesson at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
What do you think of these sunglasses?
They look great. What does that say on the side? It's 505 somewhere?
It is 505 somewhere, my man.
Wow. Love that.
Dude, I love your gear. I love the branding. It's so when I have an original 505 beater with a big lightning bolt on it. And that has been with me on so many trips across the world.
Yeah, I think you have traveled the most with that gear.
It's been to Australia, it's been to South Africa, it's been to Europe, it's been to all over the States. It's good gear, man. I really like your branding, really like your marketing.
I appreciate it. We try and brand with fun in mind.
Hell yeah.
Junk removal can be fun. It should be fun.
And I love a good villain story. So thank you for sharing that.
And it's kind of, it's kind of a silly story in a sense, because like the whole story in hindsight is silly. And we were sweating about it for a while. And then my business coach at the time, Igor Trininich, Breakthrough Academy.
Shout out Igor.
He's like, it's not that big of a deal, man. Like, let it pass. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is like, we poured so much into this. And he's like, yeah, it is what it is. Take it as a compliment. You build something cool. People want to copy it. It is what it is. That's business. Like, just win. Out-strategize them. Out-build them. Out-market them. Outsell them. That's how you win.
By being better.
Just be better.
If it's one lesson about beating your competition, just be better. Like you can try to out tactic them, you can try and out market them, you can try and build a better culture. All of it comes down to just be better. And you had mentioned Hormozy, and I was down in Vegas a few weeks ago at a workshop that him and Layla were putting on. And one of the things that they had said in their philosophy that they break down, and they got it from somewhere else, and that person probably got it from somewhere else, but what I really liked was they said, more, better, new. 70% of your time should be spent on doing more of what works now and just becoming better and better at it. 20% of your time spent on just becoming better and better. And that's just dialing in, refining processes, whatever that may be, but just getting better every single day is where that time should be spent. And 10% on something new. And you might as well just burn that 10% because it's trying new marketing tactics. It's, building new connections, trying new strategies that you have no idea if they're going to work because there's no data yet to actually back up whether or not that's going to happen. And I love what you said, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I like that because that's kind of what Google does. Like they kind of go like, what is it? Fridays are for random project day. I can't remember exactly how they phrase it. They probably will say it a bit more elegantly than I can. But essentially Monday to Thursday is like do your job. And Fridays you can reserve for working on something completely different to your job. And that's where Google Ads came from, which basically drives 90% of Google's profit.
It's a nice little side gig.
And one of the other products, I think Google Maps probably replaced MapQuest at the time. And I believe that's where that came from as well. It might be one of their other products, and that's where it's like, you can put out 50 news and you might only need 2 that hit. That's sort of how the whole angel investment system works is like, let's invest in 50 companies and let's hope 2 of them become multi-billion-dollar firms.
I remember delivering pizzas. So when I was fired from McDonald's, I managed to get a job at Little Caesars Pizza for a brief stint, and I was delivering pizzas. And this was before GPS. This was before MapQuest. The pizza place had a map on the wall, and you had to find the address, and then you had to write down the directions on a pad of paper. I imagine that would be a little difficult strategically trying to find locations and running a logistical business that involves trucks, involves people. Would this business like how feasible would this business have been without strategic like guidance from GPS, from Google, now that you mention it?
Yeah, I mean, Google plays a huge part in what we do. Google Maps for routing, Google Search for our clients, Google Ads for us to show up, Google Reviews to be proof of concept, Google My Business in order for us to like quickly showcase our business and understand, Google Analytics to collect all of the data on our web traffic. It's unlimited as far as like the Google Drive for document creation, Google Sheets for all of our budgeting, spreadsheets, you name it. They've built almost, I would say like 50, maybe 80% of the products that they've built, we've adopted and used at 505 Junk. And the crazy thing is, it's all free, except for one thing. You want to show up when your clients are searching for your service? $25 a click. And apparently that's hundreds of billions of dollars.
That works all right. It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
That's what's most important to most people. Is like, yeah, you can use all of these tools for communication, but without a sale, you don't have business. Without marketing, you probably don't have a sale. And so they found that.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Otherwise, like, you can build, as an entrepreneur, it's a rite of passage to build a spreadsheet empire, right?
I love spreadsheets, 100%. I'm all about spreadsheets.
But like,
you can map out your whole future in a spreadsheet.
And it starts out with one spreadsheet, and then you build it out, and it connects, and it connects, and it connects, and all of a sudden you have all of your dashboards, you have everything as you're building. You have this massive spreadsheet empire, and I think it's a rite of passage. Every entrepreneur needs to have that and build that at some point. So thank you very much. That is all very much free, but you're right. If you want to advertise with them, and you want to advertise in a market that is going to bring you revenue in a very, very meaningful way, then you are going to spend a load of money with them. And they're going to be pretty happy with that.
Especially when they have a 75% search domination monopoly. I mean, is that a monopoly? I don't know the true definition of it, but that is a very high market share. And if you want to acquire new clients at scale, you have to show up on search, at least for the home services industry.
Tell me a bit more. So 505 Junk, you come in, you do some the commercial stuff. You've introduced live loading. I know that. Recycling, like where does 505 start playing a part in the overall recycling? Like as in the construction industry, right? I'm in the construction industry. My primary business is focused on construction, and we contribute to a huge amount of waste. Not just our company in particular, but the construction industry as a whole. Like 55% of carbon emissions worldwide, I think, are contributed to the world through the construction industry. 505 is playing a part to help solve some of that. So I want to ask you, where does that come in and play a part? And I have some backup questions for you as well, because I'm not super clear on. But where did that start? I know that you guys are very heavily involved. It's actually very cool because we've used your services, and we get some feedback on how much waste that we actually use gets diverted from a landfill, which is a very, very cool thing.
Yeah. So I don't know the exact number, but we're somewhere between probably 50 and 75 million pounds of waste that we've hauled since our inception.
I don't even know what that means. 50 to 70.
I mean, you can go and Google the weight of an airplane and then quantify it based on airplanes. You could probably find the weight of a building in your big city and visualize it that way. It's a lot.
It's a lot of waste.
It's a lot. And the multiple on the carbon emissions emitted from garbage being brought directly to the landfill is in the 20 and 30 times. And so while recycling isn't perfect, if all companies brought all material to landfills, A, we'd run out of space, and B, the impact on it would be like at scale, and it would get ugly quickly. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is there's value in recycling, not just the humane value that our clients expect from us, especially as that's one of our core promises, as we do our best to donate reusable items or to recycle anything that's recyclable. And it's not perfect. However, drywall, mattresses, box springs, clothing, wood, metals, electronics, plastics, like these are all recyclable products, and it's our responsibility to like fight to keep that out of the landfill. A, because it's the right thing to do, and B, it makes the business more profitable.
Yeah.
So if we went straight to the landfill, we'd have to raise our prices. If we raise our prices, we're no longer competitive. No longer competitive, we're out of business. And so recycling actually helps keep our disposal costs down. And part of my 10% of sort of unfocused focus time, where I'm exploring new avenues right now, there's two elements. One is we want to scale our junk removal business. And so rather than franchising, we're going to coach other people how to do it. I like working with entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs. I like the sort of mindset of it. I like the risk that people took. I like the, upside and how life-changing it can be for people, and particularly junk removal entrepreneurs. Certain soft spot in my heart for wanting to help these people that went down this crazy path that we did as well.
Hell yeah.
The other part is the recycling side of things. And so now we're looking into the value of clothing. We're looking into the value of electronics. And we're looking at what a free service would look like to collect these, knowing that the end use of them is value. And so on the client side, it's a free service. On our side, there's no revenue. But the revenue is generated when you work with the recycling distribution companies at scale, and that's where the income comes from.
I can see your brain right now just like firing.
Oh, this is my 10% is probably more like 50% these days. Because I have such a great team in place. There's 50 employees.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they sort of get mad at me now. We're 15 years in business. If I go and do something in the business, I'm essentially cannibalizing their growth. And so it's just naturally a byproduct of that is I've bought back my time, and now I like to invest it in areas where we can innovate.
Incredible. One thing, quick story. Alex, your business partner, number 3, 13-year employee, he was on or came out, and here's a quick story about him, just as like a customer service, because using you guys and just like understanding from a customer service perspective how cool this was. So we have a client. She is looking at moving all of her belongings out of her house. She's coming to the end of her life. She wants to renovate her home, and she needs a place for all of her things to go. She doesn't have a lot of family. She doesn't know what to do with it. It's a very, very emotional time, as you can imagine it is, to have your lifelong belongings just stacked up and have nowhere for them to go. Alex had come, and he had said, you know what? No problem at all. I understand you don't want to see this stuff in the landfill. most of it, what we're not even going to recycle. What we're going to do is we're going to set up an account for you at the local auction. We're going to take all of your stuff for you at zero cost, and we're going to take it to the auction, and it's going to run there for about 4 weeks, and we're going to try and help you sell as much of your stuff as possibly can. We're going to give you back the money that you make at the auction. And from there, whatever doesn't sell, we will take care of the rest. I just thought that was really cool. And that was a really cool story that I wanted to share, because it was all of a sudden it gave some value to our client and to this woman that had a lifetime of stuff that she just didn't know what to do with. And so she can now do that. Like, there was like none of her relatives were going to take her china that she had or her artwork that she had collected. But she can now take that, and she wasn't able to, like this wasn't something that she was able to go and just sell herself. She wasn't at a point in her life where that was even going to be possible. So it was either the landfill or just let somebody else deal with it when she wasn't here. And I just thought that was a really cool story.
Yeah, like people care about their stuff. You know, it's hard to part with stuff when you work hard to earn an income and you go and purchase something that you deem as valuable to yourself. To have someone just show up and throw it in a truck and drive it to the landfill, like, doesn't really feel good. To recycle it feels a little bit better, because at least the original creation of the stuff is being reused to create more stuff. And what's better than all of that is if you can find a new home for it. Because a lot of the old furniture, you know, maybe not IKEA, no offense to IKEA, but you can't move that stuff without it falling apart.
Certainly can't rebuild it afterwards.
No. But a lot of the, you know, original wood, or like anything memorabilia or anything clothing based, like, there's going to be someone out there that sees value in these items. And yeah, Alex started doing that for a few clients recently, particularly, like you mentioned, like when people are getting a bit older and they might be downsizing, or we do a lot of estate clear outs as well. And that's another area where something was valuable to someone, they unfortunately pass away, and there's this whole house full of stuff. And it's easy to just clear out that house and drive it all to the landfill, but is that the right thing to do? Like, when we go to sleep at night, Alex calls it clean living, so that he can just put his head down on the pillow at night and know that he and the team that he now runs have done the right thing. And you just don't have to think twice about it, even if it costs a bit more money. But technically it doesn't, because there's no disposal fees and your client got paid for the stuff. So it's a win-win.
Let me ask you, this journey of entrepreneurship, we talked about the launch model, right? We talked about how you start a business to launch, then you continue the business to build, and then we continue that business to scale. Some of the skills to build, right? I imagine it's just in like the initial stages, it's pure just grit. I imagine to grow, there's like a bit more heart, maybe a bit more leadership. But what are the skills that you have found that are required, and certainly the skills that you have had to learn to acquire in between that gap of grow and scale, right? You're on the way to scaling in a big way. What are the skills that you've had to acquire between start and between grow? And what are the skills that you are learning and have learned between grow and fucking scale?
Yeah, that's a great question. And every industry is going to be a little bit different, but 0 to 500,000 is grit. 500,000 to $1 million is sort of like industry mastery. Like, you really need to know everything there is to know about the industry and the business model that you've chosen to enter. $1 million to 2 million, and this depends on average job size, like what industry and all that kind of stuff. $1 million to 2 million, you need a few managers, and now you need to become a leader. And leadership is, in my opinion, it's a skill. A lot of people will play the card like, oh, I'm not a leader. It's like, you could be, though. You just choose not to be. Because you can read about leadership, you can adopt leadership, you can change your behaviors, you can change your limiting beliefs. Tony Robbins has written probably 700 books about limiting beliefs. Like, we can change, we can adopt or adapt, we can evolve. And growing from 2 to 5 million and then going into scale after that, it does boil down to leadership, because ultimately you're going to, you know, when we were talking before about the horsepower of the team, who's hiring them? Who's training them? Who's developing them? Who's giving them a career path to grow in your company? Who's setting the vision in your company to be so big that you can actually incorporate the vision of every single employee in your company so they all have room to grow at a fairly rapid pace? That's what leadership to me sort of boils down to, is you're taking the business by the horns and you're saying, we're going to do this at all costs. So you have that relentless drive, but you're also very strategic about the process and very clear on your vision as to how you're going to get there.
Elon Musk said, I love this quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, but he said, entrepreneurship or running a business is like staring into the abyss and chewing on a mouthful of glass.
Yeah.
Because you are staring out into the abyss. You don't know if it's going to work. You have this idea. You have no idea if it's going to work. And at the same time, you're given the tasks that nobody else wants to deal with. Right? You're given all of the tasks because that nobody else either wants to deal with or can deal with. And it all comes back to you as the owner of the company, as the leader of the company, as the entrepreneur. So all that dirty work that comes back, that just has to be dealt with, it does come back to that grit. And I love that saying. And in your experience, how much when it comes to leadership of an organization, how much of that is staring out into the abyss, taking a long shot, thinking that it might work? How much of that is required? Like how much, I don't want to say risk, but how much, let's call it educated risk. How is that tolerance for risk grown inside you as an entrepreneur? And how far out are you looking where you're just like, we're going for it and I have no idea if it's going to work. I don't have the data yet to back it up, but this is where we're going. And how do you stay confident on that path?
So when you start, you're a young entrepreneur, assuming you start at a bit of a younger age. But even if you take the demographic of age out of the equation, you're still a young entrepreneur because you're inexperienced. And so when you look at that term, you essentially are an inexperienced, high risk person in business. And so banks don't want to finance you. Investors, if that's your industry or that's your thing, probably want nothing to do with you. New employees look at you like you're crazy. A lot of your friends and family might look at you like you're crazy, because to a certain degree, you probably are. And how you power through that is you just go do it. And you ignore all the noise. You ignore your own thoughts. You ignore all the doubters. And you just take action. And that's a core value of mine. A couple of my favorite ones at BOLT, our business coaching side for junk removal, is help winners win. So we want to take winners and help propel them, and default to action. And so like our primary thing when things get tough is to go take action. And that to me is like your way through all of that. And while it may feel like you're chewing on glass sometimes, the inspiration of having a really clear vision is what makes you not only be able to withstand that, but to not even care about it. And so that's what I found over the last little bit is when we're sort of innovating new services or looking to expand what we're doing or create new business models, there's always a certain level of risk. However, that inspiration and drive is what keeps you going. And so that's why I personally wanted to start a business coaching platform, and why I've always had a business coach since before we even started. At the time, we had a mentorship because we had no revenue, couldn't afford a business coach, was because that education of learning from someone that's already gone down that path doesn't entirely remove that risk, but essentially you have someone working alongside you that can help you navigate all of the most challenging questions, resources, issues, problems that could ever come your way because they've already done it.
Man, I'm a big advocate for coaching. I've had business coaches. Well, actually, since you and I met, that is where you and I met. We were in a coaching program, and it was actually most of my best friends to this day I've met through various coaching companies, and it has been an absolute game changer because you can either you can go out and learn it all on your own, but if you're open to learning, and then you can certainly learn from other people, learn from their mistakes. And yeah, it costs money, but it is money really, really worth spending, depending on the quality of the coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And the same goes for our employees, or the same goes if you are an employee. Find a mentor in your business. If you're an entrepreneur, set up like that management system, not just to check in on someone to say like, how's it going? Like someone that actually is going to take the time to like sit down and coach and train these people so that they can increase their risk, increase their likelihood of success at your company, decrease the risk of failure, and actually put the effort into like coaching and training the people on your team. The people that accept that coaching are the ones that are going to thrive. The people that are defensive and are not open to it because they might know it all, in our case, aren't a good fit for our company. And we move on from them really quickly. And so that's just something that I've noticed over the years, that if you are willing to be vulnerable, willing to admit that you don't know everything, willing to know that there's someone out there that has already gone down the road or the path to reach your next dream destination, which I found changes every 3 or 4 years, latch onto them.
Hell yeah.
It's too risky otherwise.
Let me ask you, how is AI going to interrupt your industry? Is it on your radar? I know you're using it. Where do you see that coming in and messing it up? Or is it just simply going to enhance it? Do you see, like, I look at our industry, and we thought for sure a lot of the blue collar jobs, it's going to be build it. We're going to get robots. They're going to start building stuff. That's going to be the first to come. And there's no way that AI can come after the creative jobs because you don't have heart and you don't have soul and you don't have all this other stuff. But we started seeing that AI, those creative jobs, the artwork, the music, the creative writing, all of that stuff was the first thing to be interrupted. And I'm kind of hearing a corner over here telling people, get a tool belt, get a trade, because you're going to be pretty safe from this thing called AI. And it is coming for us. We're seeing 3D printed houses, and that kind of sucks. We are seeing robots that can start, they're drywalling, they're painting, and they're coming after things like window cleaning and all sorts of stuff. We use forms of artificial intelligence to make our day-to-day operations more efficient. Do you see things like Tesla, self-driving trucks, self-dumping trucks? Do you see that coming in and interrupting your industry? Is that type of thing on your radar?
Yeah, I think any entrepreneur at this point has been researching AI. I've been putting a lot of time and energy into it. Probably falls within that. It's moved outside of that 10% category we were talking about earlier of ideas and moved into that like day to day at this point. And so areas that have impacted our industry and much of home service almost immediately overnight is copy. That's the first one, right? Essentially, like looking at like job descriptions, standard operating procedures, manuals, policies, legal agreements, reviewing legal agreements.
Yeah, for anyone that complains that they can't write an SOP for their business or they don't have any because they don't know how to write one, is living in the dark ages right now, because it's just, you just go in and be like, yeah, build me an operating procedure for this. I'm having this problem with my business. Boom, 10 seconds done.
100%. Next area is marketing. So we've been using a creative platform to basically produce like good quality marketing content, like visuals. Next one is, and this is where things start to get interesting. So live chats on our site. There's a few companies out there doing it very like exceptionally well. And generative AI like ChatGPT, Claude.ai, all that, like they basically 99.999% of the time they will never say I don't know, because they just devour the internet and there's enough information out there for them to have a very accurate opinion on essentially everything. So the challenge with that, with say like customer service, say like AI agents on your website, is hallucination, which is an AI term for make things up.
Yeah.
And so I think where the companies that are looking to adopt that into their sales or marketing strategies as part of the customer experience, you want to find a product that doesn't hallucinate. Because if they say, 505 junk, can you pick up my mattress and bring it to the landfill? And the response is, yes, absolutely. We would love to bring your mattress to the landfill. When our policy is to recycle all mattresses, it starts to get a little hairy. And so finding a product that doesn't hallucinate is really good, because essentially it'll sync to your website, it'll crawl all your pages, crawl the copy. You can upload your own standard operating procedures. We can upload our own sales training manuals, and all of a sudden the responses get pretty good. So it's been really helpful with quotations, estimates, really helpful with like Q&A, that basically rather than having to search our website, it can pull it up. So we're looking to deploy that. I've also been testing inbound phone calls, speaking to a live AI agent, and my gosh, they are so good. It's weird to speak to someone that is...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so...
Yeah, they get the tonality right. They can answer all the questions. Or maybe like a little leggy there, but
yeah,
it's getting good, man.
I called a product the other day, or you put your phone number in, and then it calls you back, and so the first thing I said is, hey, my name's Barry. I'm a potential customer of your company. I want you to act as a sales representative of 505 Junk, a Vancouver-based junk removal company that is really focused on customer service and doing the right things, such as recycling. And it's like, okay, I'll become that person. And I'm like, great. I have a few questions for you. And now this is without me actually going and uploading all of our documentation so it can truly like read about us and learn. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was fun, because I'm talking and I'm just like, how good is this thing? And so you kind of start like talking to it. And so adopting things like that, they'll, in my opinion, like at least at this point, like talking to a real person on the phone is going to win because you have that human connection, right? It's like, imagine we all went to a networking event and it was a bunch of robots talking to each other. It's like at some point, like, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah. At some point.
So, as far as the combination of robotics and AI, Tesla and some other companies have made self-driving vehicles. Like San Francisco is rolling it out with Google, bought that company for like taxi services. So it's there. The technology's there. Certain services, like you said, are going to go quicker than the others. I think the like curbside pickup, waste management companies, where you could have an autonomous driver and have that robotic arm picking up the garbage cans that are all at a set location every single morning.
Put it on the target.
Sure. In junk removal, I bet in the next 5 to 10 years, the companies that have access to capital could roll out a self-driving truck and provide customers with a U-load option where there's no people, a U-load plus one, or a we-load, or whatever it's going to be. And just certain industries, it's just going to take time.
I also think, as you look at like Uber Eats, general deliveries, right? You go UPS, FedEx, these types of things are going to be standardized, like with self-driving, self-automated deliveries. There's no doubt about it. And I look at Uber Eats, and that's a backup job for somebody already, right? They don't go into it thinking, hey, this is my first, like this is available to me, but this is my first choice for most people. I'm sure there's some people out there that just absolutely love it and that's what they want to do. But all of a sudden that becomes an option that's gone. Now what? Now what do they do? It's for money. This is what they do for money. I'm not saying what do they do in their free time. But this is something like I heard Zuck's, he's said a number of times, oh, well, they can, when AI comes, yes, it is going to take jobs. I think he's talking really high number of projects. I've heard all sorts of numbers, but I think the highest I heard was like 63%.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, these jobs are now obsolete. And he's saying, well, most people, AI will come in so they can spend more time, creating and, spending time with family and being, spending more time in leisure and recreation and doing things that they enjoy. I believe that people love to contribute to society. I believe that those people that wake up fired up, not full of anxiety in the mornings, are full of purpose because they have something to do. They know that they're there to contribute. They don't feel lost. They have some direction. And I am really curious as to how this plays out in the next 5 years, 10 years with a lot of these positions.
Yeah, I agree, because I figured you were going to ask me, like, what will these people do? And honestly, I think it goes back to the same thing for any disruption or innovation. It's like, you got to find a way to add value. And at the end of the day, if the job that you selected is to be replaced by automation, whether it's robotics or artificial intelligence, that sucks. Like, I feel for them. I'm sorry. And then the next day, you have to go and figure out a new way to add value, because the world changes. And I know one thing about AI, it learns from itself, which means it's not going to slow down. And so my advice to someone that has a level of concern about this is to have a plan B. Because as much as that's nice and all for someone to say, oh, you can go spend more time with your family, some employers might say, great, your previous role is now automated, which means that we only need you for half the time. So we'll still pay you the same salary, but you can go spend half that time. If he's suggesting that, I would love to see him implement that and actually follow through on that. to reduce the work week and still pay people full-time salary. That's very honorable. I also doubt that in a capitalist culture that's been created in the last 100 so on years, that senior leadership team executives, like senior management teams at these Fortune 500, Fortune 5,000 companies are actually going to follow through on that. And so the advice to the employee is to find a way to add more value.
Continue to being better, continue to contribute as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one thing to say, go spend more time with your family. But if you going to spend time with your family at your house that costs you $4,000 a month and you don't have income coming in, how joyful is that time going to be when you're constantly stressed about cash coming in?
Yeah.
And this is an industry. I mean, I think it's AI. We know is relatively new. We know the positive impacts that it's had on business. I'm just really curious to see how that turns out. But it comes in the next like 5-10 years, which is coming up really, really quick. But it comes back to, like you said, in very first part of our conversation today. Be better. Right? Be better than your competition. What can you do to continually improve? What can you do to continually add value in whatever it is that you're doing?
Yeah.
And I think that is a drive that a lot of people don't have. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't have the guidelines to do that. But it is going to be a necessary skill.
Yeah.
To stay relevant.
And I want to say this too, because we were talking about I feel like what I said before maybe puts out the message that like the onus is on the employee to figure out how to add value. I think more so it's expect change, expect disruption, expect that the next 10 years aren't going to be the same as they are today. But that doesn't change from a really foundational belief that I have that it's the employer's responsibility to build a career path for every person in the company. And if you're going to mislead them in a direction that is going to put them in a position that's obsolete without a plan B for them and communicate that plan B and give them step-by-step guide on how to get there, you're not doing a good job as an employer. And so that's where it's sort of a teamwork thing where it's like, yes, that particular role may be automated in the next 1 to 10 years. We really value you as an employee. And so here's a few options for a new direction that we can go in.
Absolutely. You as a leader are responsible for that. Right? You I mean, everybody's responsible for their own day-to-day actions, for whatever it is that they wake up and they show and the attitude that they bring. But as a leader of a company, it is going to be, you are responsible for knowing what is coming or anticipating to the best to your ability, the potential for growth, the potential for disruption in that company, in that industry, and report that and communicate that back to your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody needs to know that.
100%.
Do you find spirituality is something that has become a big part of your life? I know we were talking about it at one point.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with an awareness of spirituality, and so I kind of just went day to day. And I found over the years that it's a big universe. You know, when you actually look at the science, it's a big universe. And for whatever reason, and I don't know the science or the spirituality or anything about it, but when I'm very intentional about doing the right thing, being a good person, and praying for the ability to give and to provide for my family, to provide for my team, to be equipped with the knowledge to share and coach and help grow others. And when I pray for that on a consistent basis several times throughout the day, more often than not, life just keeps getting better. And you can call that a certain energy. You can call that a certain level of intention. You can call that sort of a certain type of religion or God. But that's kind of the journey that I'm on right now. And I find every year I go deeper and deeper and deeper on that path.
My man. It's been incredible.
Great conversation. I appreciate you.
We went deep today. Barry, where can people find you if they want to connect?
I'd say Instagram and LinkedIn are the two most active social media platforms that I'm on. So LinkedIn, you can search my name. It'll probably pop up /Barry Hartman. Instagram's @Barry Hartman. And then both of the companies that we run, 505 Junk and BOLT, BOLT Accelerator, can both be quickly popped up through a quick search online.
Tell us real quick about BOLT. I want to know a little bit more about BOLT. You mentioned, you've alluded to it a few times, coaching, helping winners win. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so BOLT is for the junk removal entrepreneur that wants to build a meaningful business that provides a ton of value for their team, that buys back their time so they can live a lifestyle that they truly want to live after grinding it out as an entrepreneur, and build a business that has true exit potential, regardless if you intend on selling it or not. We want to build our businesses in a way that they're built to sell. And that's where we help entrepreneurs in our industry do it. How we do that? We do business coaching, group coaching on a weekly basis. We've got a community full of like-minded entrepreneurs, and we give them access to all of the systems and procedures that we have built over the last 15 years to build one of the largest independent junk removal companies in Canada, and according to the Globe in Bale, the fastest growing one too.
This has been world class conversation. I just so awesome. Any last words that you want to share with listeners, with young entrepreneurs, with everlasting hopes and dreams of grit and determining their futures on their own terms?
Whew. Heavy. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me. I had a blast chatting with you,
dude.
So very grateful for that.
Man, happy to be here.
And the listeners.
So fun.
The people listening to this, I appreciate you taking the time of your day to learn from us as we share our story. My biggest thing is, I think people know deep down inside for what they want to get out of life. And my advice is don't sacrifice on that, because I grew up in a household where my mom taught me that anything is possible and you could do everything, but you can't have everything. So you want to be very intentional about what you set out to do, but don't sacrifice just because someone told you can or can't. And from a career standpoint or an entrepreneurial standpoint, if it's entrepreneurship, just go fucking do it. And if it's a career standpoint, find someone that you really want to latch onto and that's going to truly help you grow and make the most out of what occupies a significant portion of our time, a third of our time.
You gonna come back?
Anytime you want.
Let's go.
Love it.
Barry Hartman. I got 505 Junk, BOLT Accelerator. Check them out. Appreciate you being here, my man. Always a great chat. Appreciate everybody here.
Thanks for having me.
Watching. Let's rock and roll. Have a great night, everybody.